I never thought I'd be writing this, but here we are. My name's Emma, and up until about 6 months ago, I thought my best friend, Sarah, was the one person who would never let me down. We'd been friends for over 10 years, practically sisters. I mean, we did everything together, from middle school sleepovers, where we'd giggle about boys, to high school pep rallies, to every post-graduation night out. You name it. We were thick as thieves. But something shifted around the time I started dating Mike. You know the story, high school sweetheart turned the guy I married. Mike and I had been together for 3 years when we got engaged. It was the perfect moment, or so I thought. I remember telling Sarah about Mike for the first time. She was so excited for me, always the one cheering me on. At least, that's how I remember it. The truth? Looking back, there were little signs, small things that I dismissed at the time as nothing. But I should have paid more attention. We'd always been super close. So when Mike popped the question at our favorite restaurant, Sarah was the first person I called to share the news. She was ecstatic, at first, but there was something off in her voice, like a quiet undercurrent of resentment. I told myself it was just my imagination, maybe the stress of work, but the cracks in our friendship started showing in the weeks that followed. It wasn't obvious at first. Sarah congratulated me, sure, but then I noticed she started pulling away a bit. I tried not to let it bother me. Weddings are stressful, and I was busy planning. But there were times when I'd call her to chat, and she wouldn't pick up. When she did, she was distant or distracted, and sometimes I'd get a half-hearted response like, "I'm just tired," or "I've got a lot going on." It was weird, but I figured it was just wedding stress. I mean, we all know what a headache that can be. Then came the night I realized it wasn't just about me getting married. It was about her. It happened the week of the engagement party. It was a Friday night, and we were supposed to meet up for drinks. It was supposed to be a casual thing to celebrate with some friends, but when I got to the bar, Sarah was already there, sitting with a group of people I didn't recognize. As I approached the table, I noticed her stiffen, like she wasn't exactly thrilled to see me. "Hey," I smiled, trying to shake off the weird vibe. "I didn't realize you brought so many people." Sarah's smile was forced. "Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to mix things up," she said. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes kept darting around the room. We didn't even hug, which was unusual. We were always huggers. I tried to shake it off, but the night didn't get better. As we talked, I noticed Sarah becoming more and more distant. At one point, she turned her attention to the new guy at the table, who I later found out was her coworker. They were laughing about something, but when I looked closely, her eyes flicked over to me in this almost judgmental way. The kind of look you get when someone's watching you, waiting for you to fail. Then, the conversation shifted. We were talking about wedding plans, and I mentioned how I was deciding between a beach wedding or a more formal venue. Sarah, who was always so supportive of my decisions, suddenly interrupted. "Honestly, I don't get why you'd want to make such a big deal out of it. It's just a wedding." Her voice was cold, almost condescending. "You don't need to spend all that money. People are going to forget about it anyway." I was stunned. My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" "It's not just about the money, it's about celebrating with the people we love." I said it lightly, trying to mask the hurt in my voice. She shrugged. "Sure, but you could just elope, right? Wouldn't that be way less of a hassle?" The table went quiet for a moment, and I could feel the awkwardness creep in. I tried to laugh it off, but something inside me was twisting. This wasn't my best friend anymore. This was someone else. Someone who was acting like everything I was doing was wrong. It stung, but I didn't say anything. That night, when I got home, I cried. I thought about everything. How Sarah had been acting recently. How she used to be so supportive of my dreams and now seemed to take joy in tearing them down. But I told myself it was probably just a phase. We all have them, right? The next few weeks went by with Sarah's distance growing. I started to realize that the cracks in our friendship weren't just about me getting engaged. It was something deeper. It wasn't until I caught a glimpse of her Facebook status a few days before the engagement party that I truly understood how deep the jealousy ran. It was a post with a photo of Sarah and another friend, captioned, "Some people just can't handle when things change." The subtle jab at me couldn't have been clearer. I sat there for a few minutes, staring at my screen, my heart sinking. It was like all the pieces clicked into place, her behavior, the distance, the comments she'd made. I was getting married, and it felt like she wasn't happy for me at all. The day of the engagement party arrived. Mike and I were excited. We had a lot of friends coming, including Sarah, of course. But as the evening wore on, and everyone gathered, Sarah was nowhere to be found. My phone buzzed with texts from other people, asking where she was. I tried calling her, but there was no answer. My stomach twisted with a mix of frustration and confusion. It wasn't until about an hour into the party that I received a text from Sarah. It was short. "Oh, I forgot. I was busy watching TV." It stung, but I didn't let it show. Not yet. I put my phone down and took a deep breath. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I stepped away from the group, retreating to a quiet corner of the venue. My phone was still in my hand, that awful text message from Sarah staring back at me. I was busy watching TV. It felt so dismissive, so careless. I hit her number and waited for the ringing. My heart thudded in my chest, but I wasn't backing down anymore. I needed answers. She picked up after a few seconds, and I could hear the sound of static in the background, probably her TV, the one she'd rather be watching than celebrating my engagement. "Hey," she said, her voice casual, like nothing was wrong. "What's up?" I could feel my grip tightening on the phone. I swallowed down the lump in my throat before speaking. "Really, Sarah? Really? I've been trying to reach you all night. You were supposed to be here, and now I find out you're sitting on your couch watching TV." My voice shook with a mix of anger and hurt, but I didn't care. It needed to be said. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, just enough for me to feel that familiar, sinking feeling in my stomach. Then she spoke, but not in the way I expected. "You know, Emma," she started, her voice suddenly dripping with sarcasm, "you always were a little overdramatic. It's just a party. You're acting like it's the end of the world." She sounded like she was mocking me, almost like she was enjoying this. My breath caught in my throat. I blinked, the words echoing in my head. "You're acting like it's the end of the world." Was she serious? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like she'd completely dismissed everything that mattered to me. I don't know what happened to you, Sarah. You've been acting like this for weeks now. I don't even recognize you anymore," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but the hurt was creeping in. "I thought we were supposed to be best friends. What happened to that?" She scoffed. "You really want to know? Fine. Here's the truth, Emma. You've changed. Ever since you started dating Mike, it's like you've forgotten about everyone else. And now you're getting engaged, acting all perfect and shiny, and frankly, it's annoying." Her words hit like a slap across my face. Annoying? She was mad at me for being happy? I wanted to shout. I wanted to tell her how hurt I was, how much she'd let me down, but I stayed silent for a moment, trying to hold back the tears threatening to spill. "I'm sorry I'm so perfect and shiny," I said, the bitterness in my voice impossible to ignore. I didn't realize being happy was a crime. There was a pause. And then, like she couldn't help herself, Sarah laughed. It wasn't a joyful laugh. It was a cold, spiteful laugh. "Oh, Emma, you just don't get it, do you?" Her tone was almost mockingly sweet now. "It's not about you being happy. It's about how you've made everything about you. You've always done that, but now you're making it unbearable." My blood boiled. Everything about me? Had she really just said that? The Sarah I used to know would have never talked to me like this. "You know what, Sarah? Maybe you're right," I said, my voice laced with anger. "Maybe I've been so wrapped up in planning my future with Mike that I forgot about you. But honestly, I've been so busy dealing with your attitude lately that I almost forgot what it feels like to have a friend who actually cares." There was a long silence. And then she snapped back with something that cut deeper than anything she'd said before. "You know what, Emma? Maybe you should just stop pretending you're so innocent in all this. You're so caught up in your fairy tale that you can't even see how selfish you've become. But, hey, whatever. Go ahead and keep planning your perfect wedding. I'll be over here, living my life, without all this drama." Before I could respond, she hung up. I stood there, completely stunned. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't even bother looking. My hands were shaking, my thoughts were racing, and I was no longer sure who Sarah was anymore. The friend I'd known for over a decade felt like a stranger now, someone who could casually tear me down without a second thought. I thought about how I used to drop everything for Sarah, how I used to be her biggest cheerleader. And now it felt like she was doing everything she could to tear me down. I took a deep breath, my heart still racing after the conversation with Sarah. I knew I couldn't let her ruin my night. This was my engagement party, and no matter what she said or did, I wasn't going to let her take away the happiness I felt. I decided to enjoy the rest of the evening. The music was great, the food was amazing, and everyone who mattered was here celebrating with me. Mike was by my side, looking handsome in his suit, grinning from ear to ear like he'd just won the lottery. And honestly, in a way, he had. We took pictures with our friends, laughed at inside jokes, and posed with family members. Every time I looked around, I saw how genuinely happy everyone was for us. It felt like the most perfect night. I wasn't going to let Sarah's toxicity ruin it. I couldn't resist snapping a few pictures of Mike and me together, our arms around each other, beaming. I captioned one of them, the one who really matters. It felt like the perfect little jab after what had just happened. I didn't tag Sarah, but I knew she'd see it. She was always checking my posts. A couple of hours passed, and I was dancing with my friends when I heard my phone buzz. I glanced at it and saw a notification. It was Sarah. I braced myself. She'd commented on the photo. Must be nice to have such a perfect life, huh? Too bad it's all a show. I rolled my eyes. The way she always tried to spin everything I did into something negative had become so predictable. I showed the comment to Mike, and we both laughed it off. He rubbed my shoulder affectionately, and we went back to enjoying the night. But then, things took a turn. A few minutes later, I noticed Sarah walking through the door, looking way too casual for a party she wasn't invited to. She was wearing jeans and a hoodie, her hair thrown up in a messy bun. Her eyes immediately scanned the room, and I could feel the tension building. She was clearly here to stir things up. I tried to ignore her, but then I noticed her heading straight for the center of the room where the small group of friends and family were gathered. She was acting all chill, but her movements were too calculated, and I could see the subtle smirk on her face. She was trying to make a statement. Sarah tried to approach me, but I stayed with Mike, who was holding my hand. She glanced around at the crowd, then turned her attention to me, her voice louder than necessary. Well, Emma, looks like your little fairy tale's going great, huh?" she said, a clear hint of bitterness in her tone. She scanned the room as if she were looking for something to criticize. I mean, I've never been a fan of the whole look at me vibe, but hey, it's your big day, right? I felt my stomach churn. The whole vibe was off, and I could tell she was trying to sabotage the party. People were starting to notice, and the whispers had already begun. "Isn't it a little awkward?" Sarah continued, not missing a beat, "that all of your friends here are just showing up for a show? Like, you're all pretending to be so happy, but we all know what's really going on behind the scenes." Mike stepped in, his protective side coming out as he gently but firmly placed his hand on my shoulder. "Sarah, I think it's time for you to leave." And that's when it happened. As Sarah tried to make her dramatic exit with a smug smile on her face, she turned too quickly toward the door and tripped over the edge of the rug, sprawling forward and crashing into the floor with a loud thud. The entire room went silent for a split second before the snickers started. Then came the laughter. People couldn't help it. Sarah, the girl who had been trying so hard to stir the pot, was now the subject of every eye in the room. She tried to stand up, her face red with embarrassment, but she slipped again, stumbling to her feet. "Oh my God," she muttered under her breath, her eyes darting around the room. I could feel the tension lifting from my shoulders as people started laughing. But it wasn't the good kind of laughter. It was the kind that said, "You got what you deserved." It was a sweet moment, but I didn't let myself gloat. It felt almost too good to be true, seeing her go from the one trying to make me look bad to the one everyone was laughing at. Sarah's face turned bright crimson. She glared at me, her eyes practically burning with rage, but she said nothing. She just turned and stormed out of the room, the door slamming behind her with a sharp crack. I stood there, still in shock, trying to process what had just happened. But as I looked around at the people who stayed and who were still smiling and laughing with me, I realized this was the moment. Sarah had finally shown her true colors. The night went on, and I made sure to enjoy every single second of it. No more drama. Just me, Mike, and the people who genuinely cared about us. Later that night, I received a few angry texts from Sarah, but they didn't faze me anymore. I'd already made my decision. The morning after the party, I woke up with a heavy head, still trying to process everything that had happened. Sarah's fall was still fresh in my mind, and honestly, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I hadn't realized how much I'd been holding in, and her little stunt at the party had finally broken the tension. But just as I was about to relax, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen. It was Sarah. I hesitated. My mind raced through the options. Should I just block her? Or maybe ignore the call and save myself the stress? I debated, but curiosity got the best of me. I answered the phone. "Hello." A long pause. Then, Sarah's voice came through, low and tight with anger. "You think you won, don't you?" I groaned inwardly, already feeling my blood pressure rise. "What do you want, Sarah?" You really think Mike's all yours now, huh? She asked, almost coldly. You think he's your perfect fiancé? Your Prince Charming? I wasn't sure where she was going with this, but I could feel the tension in her words. My gut was already telling me this wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation. I sat up in bed, pulling the covers tighter around me. I don't know what you're talking about. You're the one who showed up to my engagement party uninvited, causing drama for no reason. If you've got something to say, just say it. She laughed, a bitter, dry sound. Oh, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you're too blind to see it. I clenched my jaw. See what, Sarah? There was a long pause, so long that I almost thought she'd hung up. But then she spoke again, her voice quiet, like she was choosing her words carefully. I've been in love with Mike for years, Emma. Years. And I let you have him. I let you think that you two were perfect, that you had this dream life. But all the while, it was me who really deserved him. I'm the one who understands him. I'm the one who actually knows him. I'm the one who knows what he really wants. My stomach sank. This wasn't happening. What? Are you serious right now, Sarah? You're saying that you've been in love with Mike all this time, and you're just now telling me? This whole time, you've been acting like my best friend, but all you wanted was him. Sarah's voice became more heated. I never wanted to hurt you, Emma, but you took him from me. And now that you're getting engaged, you think you're the one he really wants? No, I'm the one who deserves him. I've always been there for him. I've always been his real friend. You don't know him like I do. I couldn't breathe. The words felt like punches. You're insane, I finally managed to say. You seriously think you deserve Mike more than me? You think he'd want someone like you, after all the crap you've pulled? After you've been so jealous and manipulative? This is about you and your own insecurities, Sarah, not about Mike or me. I'm not insecure, she snapped. I'm just tired of watching you pretend to be the perfect couple when we both know the truth. I should be the one wearing that ring, not you. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, rising to the surface like a volcano ready to erupt. You need to stop right now. Mike isn't a prize for you to claim. He's not some object you can win by playing games. He chose me, Sarah. I am the one he loves, and I don't care if you think you deserve him. You don't get to act like this. You don't get to manipulate people and think you'll get away with it. You've made this all about you for so long, and I'm done. Done with you. There was silence on the other end of the line. For a moment, I thought she'd hang up. I was almost relieved. But then she spoke again, her voice dangerously quiet. You're making a huge mistake, Emma. You'll regret pushing me away. No one else is going to put up with you and your perfect little life. Mike's going to see the truth eventually. He always does. And when he does, I'll be there. My heart raced, not out of fear, but out of pure disgust. I could feel the tears of frustration welling up behind my eyes. No, Sarah. You're the one who's going to regret this. Don't ever speak to me again. Don't call. Don't text. Don't even think about showing up to any more of my events. We're done. And I mean it. There was a long, drawn-out pause on the other end of the line. I could practically feel her seething with rage. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid of her petty jealousy or her manipulative games. I was done. Fine, she spat, her voice dripping with venom. But don't say I didn't warn you. You'll see. You'll all see. And with that, the line went dead. I sat there in stunned silence, the weight of the conversation pressing down on me. I had just cut ties with Sarah, the person I had once considered my closest friend, the person I had trusted with my deepest secrets. But I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't allow her to keep manipulating me or Mike. The toxic jealousy was too much. I stared at my phone for a moment, then locked it and tossed it onto the bed. Days had passed since I'd cut ties with Sarah. At first, I was consumed by anger, frustration, and disbelief. But over time, the storm settled, and I found myself oddly calm. Life went on. Mike and I continued with our wedding plans, and I tried to move forward without letting Sarah's drama ruin the happiest time of my life. I'd forgotten about the whole thing for a while. I went to work, spent time with Mike, and even hung out with some of my other friends. It was like a weight had been lifted, and I started feeling normal again. But every now and then, I would think about Sarah, about how she'd betrayed me, and about how it had felt like she was trying to steal everything from me, not just Mike, but my peace, my joy, and my trust. I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting a little every time. And then, yesterday, something unexpected happened. I was scrolling through Facebook, just checking in on the usual stuff, when I saw a post from Sarah. A photo of her, sitting at a bar, smiling and looking so casual. And in the caption, learning to let go. On to bigger and better things. I stared at the screen for a long time. It was so passive-aggressive. And yet, something about it felt like closure. Like she was finally done with the drama, or at least pretending to be. I wanted to laugh, to comment something snarky. But honestly, I didn't care enough anymore. I couldn't be bothered. But then it hit me, she had moved on. And I had too. Maybe I didn't need to worry about her anymore. Maybe it was all part of growing up and leaving behind toxic people. So here we are. The engagement party was a distant memory, and Sarah's drama was nothing but a chapter I'd closed in my life. So then, did I handle it the right way? Let me know what you think in the comments.